Hello out there. This is Old Buck Dave coming to you again with
Old Buck Dell.
Welcome back to Old Bucks, ready to
Entertain you,
put you to sleep again.
Hey,
what do you got there, buddy?
No, I was just, I get all excited when I have a big idea. And
idea.
Yeah, what I was going to tell you was, when I think when people in general hear an interesting fact or they find an interesting situation, they like an opportunity to discuss it, right?
Of course, absolutely. That's what we do. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do.
We're sitting here at the coffee shop.
We lay off all this gamut of information that we like to throw at each other, and
generally useless and trivial.
Well, yeah. Well, here's what I think. Here's what I think it is. I think it's. I like to consider these are objects that we or subject we discuss over coffee, and I like to call it it's a case of crisis response and planning. I call it
crisis response and planning.
It's our crisis response and planning situation. And basically we discuss a crisis that we feel is a crisis, and then we consider a response, and finally we plan how someone else of like mind will solve it. So I believe that this happens many times in bars and taverns after a lot of copious drinking, where you declare a crisis amongst your friends, and you discuss the solution, and you hope other people are going to solve the problem the way you discuss it.
You have an example we could work through here?
Well, there was I could probably bring up some crisis I was thinking about, but I just wanted to let people know that there is such
that service is available.
That I believe that there is a department of the government.
Are we going to franchise this through the government? Or,
no,
or this is just like a public service.
I think we might have. It's a public service announcement exposing the fact that there is a crisis response and planning department of the government that thinks about all these things, so we don't have to really worry about it.
So we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we would like to change or do. And there are people in in a nice, comfortable room in lounge chairs that come up with solutions, and they call themselves a crisis response and planning.
Well, I'll sleep better at night.
You can sleep better at night. You do not have to fret.
CRAP is out there. Everywhere.
They're
everywhere.
It is definitely out there.
It's out there. Okay.
You can sleep better at night.
I can sleep better, even if I don't have Two Old Bucks podcast to listen to.
even without us mentioning anything, you can sleep better knowing
that's great.
Okay, so anyhow, I'm sorry. I was just off on a bit of a tangent.
There. All right.
So anyhow, I do have a thought, a more serious thought.
Yeah. What would that be?
We wanted to give some credit. I mentioned to you, I showed you an article that I had read about a man named Roget. Roget? Yes.
Roget of thesaurus fame.
Of the thesaurus fame.
I'm not going to ask you to spell it either.
No, I couldn't spell it if I tried. So I thought it deserved a comment or a little shout out.
Well, let's hear it.
And you have something there in front of you, or don't you?
Okay. Yeah. Actually, this was a little piece that you wanted me to read to kind of start this thing off here. And the article starts, back in England, Roget launched his career as a physician and inventor in 1804 at the age of 25, going on to lecture and publish extensively. In 1814, the year Bonaparte abdicated as emperor, Roget published a paper about a logarithmic slide rule he had invented. Wow. Earning him the election as a Fellow of the Royal Society of London at age 36. His most momentous work was an exhaustive surveillance of physiology in the vegetable and animal kingdoms, which composed one of the celebrated 8 Bridgewater Treatises, a series of books published in the 1830s that considered science in the context of theology. So he was pretty...
That's right.
He was pretty well known and pretty well educated and a researcher, et cetera, before he did the thing that we know him for.
Yeah, and then it says Then it says, in 1849, after retiring from medicine and science, the 70-year-old turned to words, a passion that harkened back to his childhood, when he had filled a notebook with English translations of Latin vocabulary and then classified them into subject areas. Roget's early passion never dissipated, and in his mid-20s, during off hours, the young doctor compiled a list of some 15,000 words, a little collection. He later called it that, although scanty and imperfect, had helped him in his writing over the years.
15,000 words, little collection.
Okay, so he did it when he was 70.
So he could have been like the original old Buck.
Yeah,
he didn't start
he would
doing
have really
anything
been
until he
an
was
old
70.
Right, exactly.
Well, he did actually before 70. We're
So
okay.
I thought this was really, I mean, I've been fascinated with words myself, and I thought this was really an interesting article on him. But it turns out that it says, although prior books of synonyms existed, none offered the depth or scope of the thesaurus that Roget published. Did I pronounce that right?
No.
Oh, as
You left a syllable out, but that's okay.
But it was close.
It was close.
Okay, where was that? That Roget published in 1853, and for which he would become a household word, a synonym for the source of all synonyms. Over the next 16 years, Roget oversaw more than 24 additional editions and printings, so many that the stereotype plates created for the third volume in 1855 eventually wore out. How about that?
Wow.
And all he wanted to do was organize the words.
15,000 little words.
Right. And this is sort of my favorite part of this. It's a very short article. Genius is rooted in the incessant quest for knowledge and an imagination that transcends boundaries. Does that not describe two old bucks?
Us. That's us.
I'm telling you, what's the
telling
truth?
You.
I would have said that about myself or us if I could.
I'll tell you what. He's
if
not
I had the genius to do it, right?
He's not written us a letter, but I think he gets an automatic induction into Citizens.
So Roget's early travels exposed him to foreign cultures and new terrain. That's us. Science give him structure. That's us. Oh, and after his death, September 12th, 1869, at the age of 90, well, that could be us.
Wow.
Roget's son, John, took up editorship of the, what's the word?
Thesaurus.
Yes.
Placebo.
And it's the introduction to the 1879 edition. John reported that his father had been working on an expanded edition in the last years of his life, scribbling words and phrases in the margins of an earlier version. His mind never stopped. So
that would be you.
So that's us. Hopefully our minds will never stop.
Hopefully.
And we could do something as
I got
momentous.
bad news for you.
Yeah. You think it's already missed a gear in the process.
Yeah.
But there's another article here.
Before you go down any further here, let's give due credit here, so we won't get into any copyright issues.
yeah.
Where did you read this?
Where did I read this?
You didn't write this yourself.
I did
you
not
didn't
write
this yourself.
There's
lots of words in there you can't spell.
Another article in the Smithsonian Magazine.
This is also in the Smithsonian.
the May 21st edition.
Okay.
And let's see, it was written by Teddy Brokaw, I think. And Margaret. No, Margaret did the illustrations. Who did write this? Perhaps I should.
Well, it wasn't us.
Perhaps I should read this ahead of time.
Maybe you should read this ahead of time.
So anyhow, this is what I thought was really, really funny. Is that many, many years before that, in 600 and 625, Isidore of Seville wrote a book.
Wow.
It says synonymy, the concept of distinct words signifying the same thing was understood as far back as ancient Greece. But the Archbishop of Seville authorized the earliest work modern readers might recognize a
thesaurus.
Thank you. Writing in Latin, Isidore sought to help readers distinguish between easily confused words.
Ah.
And he said, an example, drinking is natural, boozing is luxury. And there's another one.
Okay. Another one. Are you talking about John of Garland?
John of Garland.
John of Garland. I remember him. Yeah, he was an
What
English
was the year?
grammarian.
What was the year that he do his?
It was like 1225 to 1250, somewhere in there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I remember he organized stuff alphabetically, like a modern thesaurus, but it was all written in Latin. So we would have had Mrs. Van Kirk.
But Roget actually studied those.
Yeah, it's amazing.
What was his example?
Well, he talked about a barking canis might be a man's best friend, but a swimming canis would be a sea dog, a shark.
So,
Wow.
that doesn't relate to anything we have. There's another one there. What's the next one?
You're working me here. Erasmus in 1512.
Yes.
He says, Your letter pleased me mightily. For example, your epistle afforded me no small joy.
So
I was
letter,
talking different ways to express
right?
the
So
same thing.
different ways to say synonyms:
Okay.
letter and
Okay.
epistle.
Okay, yeah.
There's another one there. Let me read the next one. So good people, way before Roget, these other people were seeing the similarities. So there is Gabriel Girard, French abbot, emphasized the distinction between similar words in his synonymy, in his synonymery. That's it, synonymery. Try spelling that one, synonymery.
Synonymaceous.
It says, a man is stupid because he cannot learn, but ignorant because he does not learn.
Oh.
His book was a runaway success, inspired a wave of imitators, and influenced Voltaire and Diderot. And lastly but not least was Hester Peozy, a British synonymy, in 1794. English writer produced the first original English work of synonymy after seeing her Italian husband struggle with conversational English. You know, English is a difficult language because of this. Because words sound the same and mean different things, even spelled the same way.
Yeah.
So it says, despite her lexicographical prowess, Peozy limited her book to the realm of familiar talk. Her synonymy was reprinted several times, including a heavily censored French edition published as Napoleon came to power, and which was conspicuously missing the entry for tyranny, under Napoleon. So anyhow, many people before Roget did it, but he was passionate about it, put this thing together, and we are lucky today.
He's the guy who had the little book that we used to use back in school.
Yes, because
paging
the teacher got
frantically
tired
through there.
of hearing the same word.
Use a different word.
Use a different word.
Yeah.
So anyhow, big shout out to Roget. Thank you for I hope we did him justice. The two old bucks are probably, I don't know, I'm not necessarily the best reader. Although if you don't speak it out loud, you sort of can
You're
go
a good
through
speller,
it
though.
I'm not a good speller either.
I'm sorry, you're not a good speller.
Thank you, Roget.
Thank you, Roget. Speaking of
Roget,
that reminds me of a note that we got from Old Buck Joe some time ago, and it's just kind of been sitting here in the bin. And he was talking about homonyms. So similar, different than synonyms. These homonyms would be two words with the same spelling or pronunciation and a different meaning. For example, here's a couple examples. The word B-O-W. It could be
bow.
It could be bow, or it could be bow. Okay, same spelling, different pronunciation, different meanings. Bow is like with an arrow or a bow tie, that sort of thing. Okay.
B-I, Bicky Bye. B-I, Bye, Bicky Bye, oh, bow.
I'm losing you here. Come back, Dale. Come back. There's another one. Content, content. All right.
Content and
C-O-N-T-E-N-T. Content meaning what's contained in something.
Yeah.
And content meaning happy, like
At this stage of life,
being in
actually,
buckdom.
I figured it out. But a new English speaker might have some difficulty
Would
with stuff
definitely
like
have
that.
difficulty with that.
Yeah.
And we're gonna test the English speakers out there, because I've written a couple Western Pennsylvania homonyms.
Western Pennsylvania.
Western Pennsylvania.
Steel City homonyms, huh?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple here, and let's see if you can remember this.
Okay.
Pitcher, Pitcher.
Well, a pitcher is a person that it's on the mound in a baseball game. He's the pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you need a pitcher of beer.
Pitcher of beer, something that holds liquid.
Yeah. What other pitchers are there?
Well, a pitcher.
Could be a pitcher on the wall.
Pitcher on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Except that's spelled differently. But yeah, in Western
Sounds the
Pennsylvania,
same.
in Western Pennsylvania, it's a homonym. It's a pitcher.
In my spelling book, it's not
Exactly.
spelled.
That's my point. That's my point exactly. Now here's will be an easier one. Pop, P-O-P.
Pop. Well, pop is a soda, is a drink.
Right, and it's
A couple
also
of pops, and then of course there's
it's your dad.
popcorn, I suppose, or
Yeah.
that's different.
But yeah,
It doesn't stand alone. There's
but
high
soda
pop.
soda is known as something other than pop most places. But in Western Pennsylvania,
was pop.
it's pop.
Yeah, let's
so
get a
that's
pop.
kind of a Western Pennsylvania homonym word. How about this one? Poke.
Poke. Well, to poke is to take your finger in. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It's to prod,
As
right?
he motioned with his finger toward my chest.
But what else is poke in Western Pennsylvania?
Well, a poke is a plastic bag.
A bag,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So we're
Put it in a poke.
put it in the poke.
I mean, who wants to buy a pig in a
Pig
poke?
in the poke. Yeah. Okay.
Is that saying?
I don't know how
peculiar?
widespread it is, but I know it's not everywhere.
Oh,
But poke means a bag. And this is one it's going to stump a lot of people. Crick, C-R-I-C-K.
oh, I know what a crick is. I know what a crick. You can get a crick in your neck,
That's right.
and you can cross the crick.
You can cross the crick
You can live on the other side of the crick,
on the other side of the crick.
and the crick is a certain depth and width.
It's a flowing
as
body of
opposed
water,
to
right?
a flowing
Right.
body of water, and it's not too big. It's not like a river,
That's right. The rest of the world would call it a creek,
a creek.
C-R-E-E-K, but in
Well, that's the way we spell it.
West-
C-R-E-K is pronounced crick.
but it's a crick. Yeah, it's a crick. So that was our homonym lesson. So
that kind of makes us kind of peculiar, doesn't
thanks
it?
to thanks to old Buck Joe for mentioning some homonyms. And that
You know,
kind
I'll bet you there's some people that lived in and around the Steel City at some time out there listening to us now. They could come up with a lot of the peculiarities. I think there's a whole book on stuff like that people in that area used to talk
yeah,
about.
how to speak Pittsburghese and all
yeah.
that. Yeah,
So,
downtown and
but I was
Yins.
always fascinated with the number of words that, like I said, mean the same thing or so similar. Weight and weight. In fact, weather and weather. I've never been able to spell them right at all. In fact, when I text you or anything, if I send anything to you, I don't even worry about it anymore. Whether I've used the right words,
Yeah.
because you know how to read me.
I put it through the processor. Yeah, yeah.
You know, Dave. If my teachers had been this lenient and understanding, and finally understood, that all these words, they knew what I meant, even though I spelled it incorrectly. The or and or. If I said, I'll have pizza or a hamburger, and I spelled or, O-A-R or O-R-E.
O-A-R.
They should have known clearly exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
It sounded the
What's wrong
same,
with these
even though it's
people?
just O-R.
Yeah. Kind of left a
I would have
mark
been
on
a
you.
contender.
Could have been a
I'd have
contender.
contender, man. I'd have graduated with a C+.
Yeah. All right.
So big shout out to all
Big
the
shout-
wordsmiths out
Big
there.
shout
right?
out to the wordsmiths, and thanks, old Buck Joe up there in
Still-
Holidayville, I believe it is. I'm not sure.
Uh,
Anyway, so thanks to old Buck Dale for that synonymical enlightenment. Now, if you're a longtime listener, you probably know that fact checking is not always perfect here at Buckville. Actually, it's non-existent for the most part. But I do want to point out a few things about our Roget story. First of all, the article was written by Claudia Kalb, K-A-L-B. Now, the sidebars dealing with the previous lexicographers was written by, the sidebars were written by Teddy Brokaw. So it's the two of them that in conjunction. And this was an interesting thing that you may or may not agree with me. I was curious as if we're actually pronouncing Roget's name right, and dug into it a little bit. Now, as we said, he's English. He's not French, as most people assume. His name is Peter Mark Roget, or not. When I looked at the pronunciations of Roget, there was the one that we use, Roget. Another pronunciation was Rogie. And the third pronunciation, and the one that I'll bet is actually right, is Roget. I'm guessing that the English pronunciation for his name would be Roget. For what it's worth, folks. Anyway, that's a little bit of fact-checking, and if you know otherwise, let us know. BUCKSTWOOLD@gmail.com. And until then, this is Dave. Oh, and Dale has nodded off, sorry. So it's Dave and Dale here to say adios.